The seed goes in the dirt, in the darkness, where it's wet, it's hard, it's not a lot going on that's sexy and attractive.
Sexy at all.
And then it begins to grow, the roots,
Germinate.
and then it sprouts and it breaks through the soil. And people see what the breakthrough part, and they're like, oh, wow, look, it's budding, it's pretty. But they don't see what goes on in the dirt.
It's spring. We were just sitting upstairs in our office with the window open, and we heard the little birdies. They were just singing away. And it just reminded me that spring is here, and it would be a fitting time to reconnect with a theme that we had talked about a year ago. So for Mother's Day last year, right after my birthday, we went shopping. And think if you go back and rewind to that episode, I said all I wanted for my birthday was a burger and a plant. For my birthday, I wanted it simple. I wanted 3 things aside from good health and waking up.
We went to White Castle?
No, I wanted a cheeseburger.
Oh, did you get one?
I did.
There you go. Life's good. What more can you ask for?
I wanted cake.
Did you get cake?
I did. I didn't want like a big cake. I wanted something little that wouldn't make me big in the belly. So my dear went out to Sydney Sweets on the low. He snuck out and got cake jars from Sydney Sweets. Shout out to Sydney Sweets.
We mentioned Sydney Sweets anymore. People are going to start thinking they're a sponsor this thing.
Today's episode is sponsored by Sydney Sweets. Check out their cake jars. And then the third thing I wanted for my birthday.
Worldwide.
It wasn't flowers. I wanted a plant.
Yeah, now I got a house full of plant children. Like 8 of them. They're just everywhere. They're kind of cool though. I ain't gonna front.
So we go to Myrtle Ave in Brooklyn. Shout out to the shops on Myrtle Ave.
I can't remember what the name of the store is, but yeah, we'll put it in the comments
and
for all you in the Brooklyn area.
And we bought some plant babies, right? We got aloe vera plant. What else did we get? We got the big one. Was the banana leaf? Something Yeah, something bird of paradise.
Yeah.
We got. What else? We got like a golden pothos.
Yeah.
We bought like 5 or 6 different plants, and we looked at. They had signs up in the
orchid.
Flower. Yeah, we got an orchid too. We had signs up in the shop, telling you what the benefits were for each of the different kind of plants and what were the different care regimens. And so it made a fitting topic for today to be seeds to grow. What our plant babies taught us about being entrepreneurs and growing our businesses.
Okay.
So even though I was the one who was originally all gung-ho to get the plant babies.
Right. Who's taking care of them?
Papa Bear here is the primary caregiver.
Oh, we should get them. Yeah,
to our plant babies.
We should get them. So clearly, if we get a divorce, I know who the plants are going with. Me.
First of all, I'm gonna need you not to be talking about divorce. Second of all, you only get half of the plants.
When's the last time you watered them? Consistently on a regular basis.
You just don't see me water them.
Yeah, right. I check the soil all the time.
But I come downstairs before you do.
You don't be watering because I come and check the soil in the morning and I'll be like, dry.
He doesn't know.
Then I missed dry. So like, anyway.
So if you have a green thumb, whether you have houseplants or you are outside in the garden, there is a lot you can learn from your plant babies about business. Now, for those who've been hooking up and watching Commerce and Show for a while, you know I'm a pretty spiritual person and get a lot of lessons from the Bible. And in the Bible, there were many parables or stories that were tied to agrarian culture because a lot of people in the Bible made their money off the land. So like if you look to the Bible, it even teaches us that how you treat your plants, how you treat the land can dictate what kind of results you get. So Chief, talk to me about some of the key takeaways you've had from nurturing our plant babies over the past year.
If you don't pay attention to them or give them what they need, they're going to die. So it's simple. And your business is the same way. Like, it's not really complicated. You just need to figure out what the right amount of each thing is and how much you need to give it and how much attention you need to pay to it. Otherwise, it will die. And your business is the same way. It will die.
That's very straightforward.
Okay, episode over. Thanks for coming, everybody. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you. That's all I got.
That's a very straightforward point. But it's so true. I mean, with the plants, let's take the orchid as an example, right? The orchid, it had these beautiful flowers, and then the flowers started falling off, but the leaves were still green. But then we noticed this real funky odor.
Yeah, because who was taking care of it? Again, me. So
no, I was taking care of it then, and I had overwatered it.
No, well, the first problem was it was in the wrong pot.
Okay.
It was in the pot. It was left in the pot that when we brought it, the guy just put it in the pot because it looked nice, but it wasn't the right kind of pot for that orchid. It had no drainage, so basically, it was sitting in a pool of water, unbeknownst to either one of us. And I'm just like, I looked down and I was like, it's all mushy, so it was getting too much water, so it started to get root rot.
So a sub point would be where you are potted makes a difference. If you are not in the right vessel or you are not in the right soil for your business, you may not be as successful. So an example would be if you're in a retail establishment and you're not located on a major thoroughfare where there's a lot of foot traffic, it may be harder for you to grow your business than if you have a retail brick and mortar store and you're on a very busy area.
Yeah.
You don't agree?
I'm not saying I disagree. I'm just like, I've had this debate with some of our, colleagues and stuff in business about, and they've told me like, oh, I need to move my business to, we've had that discussion even with the soapbox. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, we should move it to a street where it's more foot traffic, where it's busier. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying foot traffic doesn't play a role in it, but at the same time, if you're not putting your stuff out there, nobody knows about it. I don't care where you're located. You're still not going to do business. Like I've seen plenty of stores when malls were busy at one point, and those stores would still be deserted because people would just walk past that store because in their mind, in the mall, they were going to particular destinations that they knew about because those businesses had done whatever they needed to do to get product placement in that consumer's mind. So you could still be on a busy street. I'm sure there's stores in Times Square. It's mad busy there that don't make a lot of money based on the amount of foot traffic that goes by. Like, I think it's about, if you're talking using an analogy about the pot and the soil mm-hmm. or not being in the right pot. Mm-hmm. I would look at that as, are you putting your business in the right places for people to find out about it? Mm-hmm. You could be located, like there's plenty of like bars, restaurants, and all kind of stuff. Some of them are like holes, like behind this in the alley, like in a hole in the wall. Like I know of one in the city we used to go to with friends back in the day. The restaurant was located through an alley behind another building. It was like almost like this secret, like it was kind of weird. It's like secretive. You had to walk through an alley in Lower Manhattan, and then you into the restaurant. If you walk by, then you just be like, it's an alley to the back of these buildings. But you go in there and the place be busy. It'd be packed all the time because they built awareness. People mm-hmm. knew about it. People were interested in it. So it's the same thing for your business. You got to put it in front of people. Like, I'm not going to, say that whole thing. They say, build it and they will come. Right. I'm like, put it where they are so they can know about it and then they'll come.
Right.
So, it relates, yeah.
But another example of where you're planted makes a difference is that the white bird of paradise plant that we had, beautiful long leaves. Initially, we had it in the center of the house and it wasn't in direct sunlight.
Yeah, it was a couple of things going on with that one, but yep, that was one.
And then when you moved it to the front of the house, and granted, you got light to go with it as well.
Right.
You saw a different growth pattern. You saw more leaves come out in different results.
And I switched the pot.
Then
So I put it in a better place.
Got it.
I put it, yeah. And then changed the drainage. Did some things so when it wouldn't be sitting in stagnant water. So like the question is your business or what you're trying to grow sitting in something that's stagnant because you're not giving it whatever the attention or tools or nutrients it needs for it to grow. You're just doing the same thing over and over. So of course it's going to be stagnant. Like you can't expect your business to, if you're doing steps 1 through 5 and your business is not going beyond that, clearly you need to maybe add step 6 and 7, or you need to change up what's going on in some of the steps or the processes in 1 through 5. So then your business could start to go to the next level. Like we see it all the time. Like Soapbox is like kind of stagnant right now because it's a plant, if we're sticking with that analogy, that's not getting a whole lot of my attention right now. It's getting a good amount of attention from the staff there, the manager, and myself, but it's not getting the same amount of attention it was getting previously when I was like focused on it and there all the time. So it has a different effect on it until you get it to a certain place. And it still needs your time and attention. Even after you get it to whatever that certain place might be for you, it will always taper off depending on, or stay level or stay stagnant, depending on the level of attention or resources you dedicate to it.
All right. So if you don't pay attention to it, it will die. So you got to make sure.
Well, it might not die. It might not grow.
Okay.
Or the environment you put it in. Like somebody put on one of my posts, and I got to give him a shout out. I can't remember who it is, but he wrote, he was like, I didn't realize a plant. It's two things that I'm aware of. There's a plant and there's a fish. They will only grow as big as the container that they're in. So if you buy a fish from a pet shop, like let's use a shark. They will, like, people think of a shark and they're like, wow, this thing will grow really big. You have a saltwater tank and it's only 20 gallons. That shark will only grow as big as the space you put it in. Mm-hmm. So it genetically, it will, like nature will cause it not to grow anymore, even though in nature, in the ocean, this thing might grow 6 feet or 5 feet. But because it's in a space that limits its growth, its body will know we cannot grow anymore because of the space that we're in. So the question is, what space are you in, or what space is your business in, or what space is the thing you're trying to grow in? Is it big enough to allow it to keep growing, or is it in a space that says, listen, you can't grow beyond these parameters or these confines, whatever it might be? And it could be mentally.
Great point. And so one other thing that I realized about our plant babies, there was our very first plant baby we didn't buy. We were actually gifted the first plant baby from our friend Judy and Jamie Diamond. And they had given us the plants for the previous Christmas. And we had them here at the office and left them out. And other people began to care for our first plant babies and didn't necessarily care for them the way that was best or the way that we would have cared.
It's not even what the plant need, what the instructions were for it.
So they didn't even bother to read the instructions.
Right. They walk by and just be like, oh, it looks dry. It needs water. And somebody will pour water in it. Another person might walk by and be like, oh, it looks like it needs sun, and put it near the window. Mm-hmm. Somebody else come by and be like, oh, it looks dry, and put it in like a pot of water and just let it soak for like the whole day. And then when they come back for like lunch or something, they take it out and then put it somewhere else. So like it was, the attention it was getting was all over the place.
So our plant babies
they started to die.
They did start to die.
And
then we took them home. Took them out of the care of the people who weren't following instructions, and you gave them some extra love and care, and you figured out how to propagate them.
Yeah, one of them was like it was straight ass out. It was done. The roots were dead, but there were like a few leaves that were still alive on top. So if depending on the type of plant or whatever, you can propagate it. Basically, you can take some of the leaves or a stem and then get it to root and then plant it, and it'll keep growing. So yeah, I jacked off some of the leaves. I tore off some of the leaves.
Please don't do that.
Yeah, totally edit that part out. And then put it in the soil, got the roots to start sprouting from it, and now it's grown into, it's technically the same plant, but it's a leaf from that plant, so it's grown into a new plant. So technically,
it's a new plant, baby. Technically,
we saved it. Yeah, but no, it's the same plant. It comes from the same, whatever, I don't know, DNA or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, yeah. So now it's growing, whatever. It's alive. Yay.
So that lesson to me is a couple of things. you can't entrust your baby, especially not your plant baby or your business baby, to everyone, because everyone may not know what your baby needs like you do, because they have not read the manual, they haven't read the playbook, and they're going to make choices based on what they see and not necessarily what they know to be correct. So you have to move your plant baby or your business baby to a safe environment where you can isolate and control the variables that are going to lead to success. And that's exactly what Cope did with the succulents. So now we have successfully propagated the succulents.
It's still alive.
And
That's it. It's growing.
Their heart still beats. The other thing is, basically you got to move out the situation. I guess one of the primary lessons I've learned from our plant babies, and we have a number of different types, is that there's no one size fits all. So what the white bird of paradise needs is not what the aloe vera needs. It's not what the succulent needs. Is not what that other little plant whose name I don't know needs.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in business. If you have different products or services, if you have different client types or different client avatars, I don't even like to say that, you can't use a one size fits all approach to address the different facets of your business. You have to understand what works best for each different segment, whether it's a customer segment or a product or a service segment. And then, as they say in the old church, govern yourself accordingly. You want to make sure it makes sense. And have you seen that? Can you give the folks an example of how you see one size does not fit all at the soapbox?
Like each customer, each client that we have to deal with, like everybody's order is not. We perform 3 basic of the same functions. Our services: sneaker cleaning, dry cleaning, laundry. But everybody doesn't have the same preferences. Some people want their stuff dried low. Some people want all free and clear. Some people want organic detergent. So it's not one size fit all. But we limit what we have. We've limited what we do so we can niche down. We talked about before, and focus. But then when you niche down and focus, you can deliver better services for those few things that you're really focused on. Versus if we were doing sneaker cleaning, dry cleaning, laundry, we were doing, alterations, and we were doing, I don't know, like tie dyeing service, and then doing hats, specializing in hats and some other stuff. We'd be all over the place. We only be able to do a few of those things, probably okay, versus really good, versus limiting the things that we're offering, and then really specializing or niching down on those few things. So someone says, I would prefer if you not dry these items. We're like, okay, that's not a problem, because we're not spreading our attention across all these different bases. And then we can say, not only we're not going to dry them, we're going to put them on hangers. We're going to put them in plastic, put a separate tag on it, do these other things, or we're going to hang dry it in the special, thing we built that has the air that flows. So the item will dry naturally. It's no heated air like from a dryer that won't shrink it. And it won't hang around damp either and go sour by the time they come to pick it up, or we have to deliver it. So, yeah, hope that answers your question.
It does. And then can you give them example from Johnson Security, how we can't use a one size fits all approach?
Oh my God, it's so many different variables there. First of all, you can't use the same approach for every site, because a construction site is different than an office building. You can't use the same type of personnel for, in general for, you can't use someone who has the same credentials for a construction site or a medical site. Right. There's different steps, and there's a different skill set. There are some team members who have skill sets that can go across a variety of sites. Mm-hmm. But also focusing down on that also allows us to only focus on a few different client types, where we're able to drill down more to address their needs, or better train or properly train the staff to say, this is how we do customer service at a residential building. Versus if we're doing residential, we're doing supported services. We're doing all types of work. Now we have our team on the upper management and in the training side has to be familiar with all the different nuances at all these different types of places. and they get super spread thin. Versus if we're doing, okay, we're only going to focus on these 5 core, verticals or what have you. They can really drill down and be like, hey, when this happens at this type of location, this is how we're going to do the training. This is what the people should respond. So they're able to get more in depth with limiting it versus trying to do everything.
So don't try to do everything.
Please don't. I mean, you can if you want, especially if you going to be one of our competitors. I'm like, do it all. Because, like, you ain't going to get it all right, but by all means, do it. Like, do it. Yeah. I got no problem with that.
You sure you don't have any problem with
that? But if you're really
boss?
trying to build something and, be of substance and make an impact, I would highly suggest, like, focusing. Figure out a couple core areas that you do really well, you enjoy doing, or you see there's a lack and you can provide value in it, and focus on those and really drill down. And the people you are servicing, your clients, will appreciate it even more, because when stuff goes wrong, which it always does, you'll be able to react better and take care of them better than if you were just doing a whole bunch of things and stuff falls through the cracks. Lived it and learned it, with clients at JSB as well as at the box.
I'll add one last thing that I've learned from our plant babies is that it's important to connect to nature in some form or fashion, whether it's in getting outside and getting some fresh air, letting the sun beat upon your face, smelling the flowers, or listening to the birds. There is something refreshing. There is something renewing. There's something that speaks to your spirit when you have a connection with nature. So even in operating our businesses, if we spend all our time inside the office, in front of the computer, there's only so much we're going to grow because we don't have that connection. And by going outside and embracing the natural elements, it makes us better prepared to deal with the challenges that come up as well as the successes that come up, because nature can have a positive impact on your mind frame and on your overall disposition.
Okay.
Because I can attest that I've seen you when you start working with the plant babies. Like, you could be frustrated, but you're not going to leave the house until you make sure that you spritz some of the plants.
I just don't want them to die.
I know you just don't want them to die, but it's that care, it's that compassion that shifts your mood, so you're not as much of a grumpy bear.
No, I'm just trying to. It got nothing to do. I'm trying to figure out, like, what's going to take them to stay alive. Like, what do they need? For me, it's a goal. I'm like, it's something that needs to be accomplished. So I'm like, if they're this size, I'm going to do this because do I want them to grow? Do I want them to stay the same size? Like, there's one that needs to be repotted now. That fig. Why
gotta be fake?
No, I said the fig.
Oh,
not fake.
Oh, the what is it? The fiddle leaf fig.
Yeah, it needs to be repotted. So it's not growing any bigger because it's in a pot that's too small for it. So I'm like, yeah, and like a bunch of little leaves are sprouted out of it. And I'm like, and the roots are growing out the bottom. I'm like, I got to get this guy or gal out of this pot into a new one. So to me, it's about figuring things out and then seeing if you follow these steps or you do these things, and then you can see the results coming from it. So like the ones that were dying, and then we made a U-turn, and
like
then
the orchid,
you saw it come back to life.
Which
so
you took it out the damp soil, you let it dry out, you repotted it, got a bigger plant, changed the soil, and then what happened? The leaves came back strong and green.
Right.
Then next thing we know, there were flowers.
So for me,
there were lots of flowers.
It's the same thing like the business. If something is not working here, if revenue's down, or we're not reaching the right client base, like, I look at it and say, okay, how do I figure it out? So what gets me is dealing with the plants is figuring it out. Because some of them come with instructions and you read it and I'm like, okay, I did what it said, but it kind of ain't working. So then I'll go online and do more research and then see what this person said, or they say, oh, put it in this southeast corner or this type of sunlight. And then I'm like, I try it and then I look and see, okay, it looks like the leaves are getting brighter, or it looks like the plant's getting a little weaker. Maybe it's too much water. Maybe it's not enough. So to me, it's about figuring it out and then following the process to see the results. Right. So the beauty of me doing anything is the process, and then the end result, not even the end result, because when it gets to the end, I'm kind of like, damn.
It's not really the end.
I like the journey and the process more than anything, and then seeing the results from doing it. So it's like, okay, put water, or all right, we get a new team member, and then they bring their skill set and their personality to the team, and then you see how it affects, and the team starts to grow, or these new exciting things start to happen. And you're like, yeah, okay, like how do we continue to cultivate that? How do you continue to grow it?
In plants or in business, people will know you.
So the farmer is only known by his harvest. If he gets a harvest, he's not a good farmer. If he gets a great harvest, then he's a good farmer.
Yes.
Okay.
If you go to the state fair, you see who gets the awards, the people with the good harvest.
Well, there you go. There it is. That sums it up.
But
plant the seed and grow it.
You can use the tips that we shared with you today to put your business on a path to being that good fruit, to having that great harvest. Remember, if you don't pay attention to it, it's not going to grow right. If you're in the wrong pot, or if you're not planted in the right place, you may not see as much growth as you can. If your business is stagnant or your plant is stagnant, make sure you're giving it what it needs. And the size of the vessel or the space that you're in can limit your growth. Remember, one size does not fit all. But make time that you take time along the process to see the beauty of the process, whether you're growing plants or whether you're growing your business. You don't want it all to flash by your eyes. Like if you're raising your kids, you don't want to wait till graduation to see all the great things that they've done with your plant babies and with your business baby. Make sure you take the time to enjoy the process, see the beauty in the process, and celebrate the growth in every phase.
All I can say is, listen, don't get caught up by optics. What's the most, when you think, if we're talking about plants and business, what's the most important part of a plant?
The roots.
The root. And you can't see the roots. The roots are in the dirt. It's in the ground. It's in the, they call it dirt. It's in this thing that they call it's dirty. They are there stabilizing the plant, holding it and providing it with nutrients. Don't get me wrong. The leaves, they do, photosynthesis and all this other stuff with the light and the oxygen, carbon dioxide, et cetera, et cetera. But
come on through, school teacher.
But be clear that the roots are providing an essential job. The seed goes in the dirt, in the darkness, where it's wet, it's hard, it's not a lot going on that's sexy and attractive.
Sexy at all.
And then it begins to grow, the roots,
germinate.
And then it sprouts and it breaks through the soil. And people see what the breakthrough part, and they're like, oh, wow, look, it's budding, it's pretty. But they don't see what goes on in the dirt. So don't get caught up with worrying about what everybody's going to see when it breaks through the dirt. Worry about what you got to do with your business or whatever you're trying to grow that's going on in the dirt. It has the good root system. It has a stable foundation. Like when a storm happens, a lot of trees fall down because their roots weren't deep in the soil, or the soil got too saturated and it got ripped up. So make sure you're focusing on too, not just what's on the outside, what people see, but what's down in the dirt that people can't see. Take a moment of silence right now and look at the screen, whether it's on your mobile device, on your computer, or you're watching this on your TV or your smart TV. There's this button down at the bottom that says subscribe. Click that, and then I want you to jump all the way over to the other side and hit the like. But then there's another button there. I want you to share it.